Hello, my dear students. I hope you are doing great. I welcome you all to this wonderful world of auditing and assurance. Today, we'll be starting our journey of auditing, a very beautiful subject and a very important subject from a CA's perspective. Before starting with the subject, let me briefly introduce myself to you. I am CA Neha Lathi Mittal. I have been a merit ranker throughout my career. I have stood third and fifth all over India in my CA PE2 and CA final. I have been teaching for last 13 years. Teaching is my passion. And till today I have taught almost 25,000 students, whether be it my pen drive students or my live students. I have also qualified my DIP IFRS UK. I have done my CISA, my DISA and my CFA US. All the three levels I have also cleared. Now, let me introduce you to your subject. Auditing and Assurance. Group 2, paper number 6, 100 marks subject. The first thing when I say auditing, what comes to your mind as a student? Let me guess. It should be something like it is a theoretical subject. So much of theory, right? Not very scoring. No matter how much we study, we don't get marks. We have been listening like, as if this auditing is a monster subject, and that's what we have been listening from our seniors and, from everyone around. So now, is that a fact? Is it the truth? Or is it just a myth? We will be seeing all those things one by one. But before going there, the basic meaning of audit. So basically auditing simply means checking of financial information. Checking it so that you can give your opinion on that. Okay, so simple meaning is that. Technically the definition and all we'll be seeing today itself. Now going further, why is auditing really needed? So that's the first question that comes to our mind. So let's go really some years back, centuries back, when there was barter system. Okay, so there we had, civilization has just started, and barter system was the first form of exchange which had ever come. So in barter, we had exchanged goods for goods, right? So in that scenario, when goods for goods were exchanged, there was no proper value placed on the goods. Slowly and steadily, people started understanding that yes, the values are different. There is a difference between 10 mangoes and one cow. So if you're exchanging one cow for 10 mangoes, it's not a proper trade. It's not a proper exchange. And then people started realizing that we need something, a common measure for measuring the, transactions. And that's when money was invented. So money was where we had a common thing, a measure for the things. And that's once money came, currency came in picture, then that was when business started flourishing, started growing. We all know that the first form of business was a sole proprietor. Now, when there was a sole proprietor, think about it. As a sole proprietor, I am managing the business. It's my business. My assets, my liabilities, my profitability belongs to me. So there is not much need that I would want to, check the financials. Okay, I have a fair idea about where my profits is, what is happening. So that was not where auditing really was growing. Then came the second step. After this, we went to partnership firm. Now, when partnership firm came into existence, the whole scenario was that a partnership firm would be having partners, and no matter what you say that partnership is based on trust and we all have we have trust in each other, that is not always the case. Very simple example to take, there could be dormant partners, sleeping partners who are there. So they will always have this fear that these people who are managing these active partners might be misappropriating, might be doing some fraud. That thing will come to the mind. So that is when the picture comes, and that is when this auditing started gaining little importance, where people wanted to have a check. Partnership firms wanted to have a check on their profits. So that is when auditing actually started, like a little bit. But of course, even partnership had some limitation. Then finally came my big form of organization, company form of organization. And when companies came into existence, that is when my auditing grew by leaps and bounds. Now there was no looking back, because company form of organization was such that there is a separation of ownership and management. The ones who put in the money, the owners, the shareholders, the investors are different from the ones who are managing the business. So always there will be one thing in the mind, that are the managers taking care of the business properly? Are they showing the profits properly? And whether financial position, the assets and liabilities are shown properly. And that's when auditing gained the most importance, right? So today's world, if I think that there are these huge companies, multinational companies all over the world who are showing profits, who are showing losses, or whatever the things may be, is it checked? Of course it has to be checked. And checked by whom? Any Tom, Dick or Harry? No, checked by a professional, an auditor, a chartered accountant. In our country, it's a chartered accountant. The same thing in USA, you will go, it's a certified public accountant, a CPA. So it all depends. And then that started growing like anything. Today's scenario is such that if at all, any balance sheet, any P&L is not signed by a CA, what value does it have? Nothing. You might be showing billions of dollars turnover there, you might be showing millions of rupees of profit there, does not matter. End of the day, unless it is signed and checked by a professional, it has no value. That is why we need auditing. Otherwise, people will show whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, and nobody is there to keep a check on this. So auditors play a very important role to kind of stabilize my economy. I know when the market will be unstable, my economy will be unstable. And market also to a large extent depends on the auditor. A very good system of auditing helps the entire nation, helps the entire businesses to grow. And most importantly, protects the investors and other stakeholders. So basically, this is why auditing is needed. Just a very brief introduction of why auditing is needed. Going to my second point now. What is the importance of this subject? Now, when I talk about importance of this subject, I will also take the third point along with this. Is it a theoretical or a practical subject? Okay, so when I tell you theoretical or practical, what thing comes to your mind? When I say practical subjects that you have, let's think. When I say practical, I'm sure you must be thinking, oh, costing is practical, right? Accounts is a practical subject. FM is a practical subject, right? All these are practical subjects. This is what will come to your mind first. And you are correct also to some extent. Then I'll ask you, which are the theoretical subjects you have? I'm sure you will be saying, okay, law is theoretical, auditing is theoretical, EIS, SM is theoretical. These are the normal things which anyone would be thinking. Okay, I will not say whether you're completely correct right now, because you're partially correct. Ideally speaking, now this subject of auditing is normally thought of as a theoretical subject. Like I said, lots and lots of theory. Okay, you have that institute module lying at home, you must be seeing it. So much of theory plus pronouncements of institute, one more standards on auditing books given. So so it's all theory. Frankly speaking, from your angle, as an intermediate student, you might be thinking, yes, it is theoretical. Reason being, you have not done articleship. Because you have not done articleship, that's the reason you find it theory. But it's not 100% correct. When I talk about practical subjects, practical means what you practice day to day. When you will be starting your articleship, whenever you will be starting articleship, you think you're going to sit and make cost sheets every day? So costing is out of picture. Do you think you are going to sit and make accounts and pass entries in Tally, in SAP, in other ERPs every day? No, my dear, that is not going to happen. Then you would be thinking, oh, I might be doing financial management, working capital management, and ratio analysis I will be doing in office sitting every day. Do you think so? No, definitely not. So then in that case, my entire thinking of what is theoretical and practical changes here. Okay, so you will be doing maximum times auditing in your office, which means you will be practicing auditing in day-to-day work. So that makes my auditing a very, very practical subject. In fact, it is 100% practical. Only thing is, because you have not done your articleship, it seems theory. That is to some extent correct. Okay. Now coming to the thing, importance of the subject. For this, now since we know our theoretical and practical subjects, let's understand the importance of our subject, auditing. What is the importance? For that, I'll ask you a very simple question. Okay. If at all you go anywhere, okay, anywhere, any layman you go and ask, like, what does a CA do? Just simple question you ask, okay? Anyone, I'm saying any person, go and ask what does a CA do. I bet on it. Maximum times people are going to tell you what? Tax, audits, checking, balance sheet, these words will come from their mouth, okay? So that's what you will be hearing. What a chartered accountant does, right? Now, when I will ask you as a student now, what do you think you are becoming an expert in? You are studying every day, so many subjects you are studying. What do you think you are being an expert in? First thing, let's start with your accounts. Accounts, are you an expert? Yes, you're a chartered accountant to be. Obviously, you have to be an expert in accounts. So, definitely, yes. What about costing? Costing, we have 100 marks in inter, we have 100 marks in CA final. So, definitely, I'm going to be an expert in costing. Don't you think so? No, no. Why? Because I may be very good at costing, but I have someone better than me in costing. I have a cost accountant, a CMA, who is better than me in costing. Then I will think, okay, let's think of another subject, law. I am great in law. Again, I have 100 marks in inter. I had in my foundation, inter, final, everywhere I have it. Am I an expert in that? No. Sorry to say. You may be good in law, but you are not an expert. An expert in law is going to be a lawyer, is going to be a CS, not you, not a CA. Okay, then maybe I'm an expert in tax. Yes, yes, I'm an expert in tax. Direct tax, indirect tax, GST. I'm an expert in that. You think so? No. Again, no. Because tax is not something which is specifically relating to, and I can relate only to chartered accountants. No. Of course, CAs do a lot of practice in tax, but we also have tax consultants who can do tax practice. GST audit we do. That is true. Tax audit we are doing. That is also true. But again, the word audit comes with it. That's why we are doing it. Understood my point? Oh, then maybe we may be an expert in finance. Wait. I'm sure we are an expert in finance. Again, sorry to say, in finance, again, you're good, you're great. But we have chartered financial analysts who are mainly in finance. So they are better than us when it comes to finance. So where am I getting with all this? What am I trying to tell you in all this? Let's analyze. I'm trying to tell you that you are learning all these subjects because end of the day, you are going to need this knowledge in your practice. Definitely, yes. You will need it when you will be doing business, when you're doing jobs. I totally understand. But if I ask you which are the areas you are expert in, that there is nobody better than you in this subject, then your answer will be different. Yes, I missed out your EISSM. EIS, you think you're an expert? You'll be learning it? Definitely not. We have got CSAs, ESAs who are better than us. SM, strategic management, is just a small subject. For MBAs, it's the whole course. They are better than us in this. So eventually, I'm coming down and boiling down to the point that you, my dear, are, as a chartered accountant, expert in accounts and audit. So by default, the importance of the subject is clear. Supreme two subjects in your course, accounts and audit. Now between the two subjects, if I have to see, let me analyze. You have been doing accounts right from your 11th standard, 12th standard, your FI BCom, your foundation, your inter, you have done your accounts group 1 also. Did you ever need the knowledge of auditing here? Did you ever need it? Yes, did you think about how this is going to be checked later on? Nah, you have never thought of that. You have only thought of accounting. We have learnt entries. We have learnt how to make trial balance, balance sheet, P&L, everything. But we have not learnt how to check them. So, my point is, for doing accounts, you did not need the knowledge of audit. You did not need it. But for doing audit, means checking the financials, of course you will need the knowledge of accounts. Understood? So this subject is such that it needs the base of accounts. So that means auditing is one subject. In fact, I would say the only subject in your entire curriculum which needs the knowledge of even your other subjects. That makes it a very, very important subject. This being the strength of the subject also becomes a problem in the subject. I'll explain how. So your basic scoring of the subject, like coming to the next point, your scoring of this subject also depends on the knowledge of your other subjects. For example, accounting standards you're going to be needing here. You will need Schedule 3 knowledge over here. Some law related provisions also will be coming in auditing. So it is not that I'm only an expert in audit. To get a good score in audit, I have to have good knowledge of my other subjects also. That makes scoring a little more difficult when it comes to auditing. Definitely more difficult than accounts or maybe costing, FM, because your so-called practical subjects are more of sums. So there you know it's right or wrong. But in auditing, that's not the case. It's a kind of theory subject which you apply totally practically. Agreed. But end of the day, when you're writing, that's very, very important. So can it be a scoring subject? Now that's my next question. Answer is depends. Depends on how you take the subject. If you give the subject the entire respect that any 100-mark subject would deserve, then it is a very good scoring subject. But if you are going to take this as a residuary last subject in your kitty, that first I'll be studying accounts, costing, FM, tax, and then I might think about, your theory subjects, and auditing comes last in that, then how do you expect, if you don't give respect to the subject, how do you expect good marks from that subject? So my sincere request to you today on first day is only one. Just give it the respect that any 100-mark subject would deserve. Even as a student, I also, when I used to study, even auditing for me was not considered to be like priority subject. I understand that. But at least give it its importance, due importance. Right? So if you are going to give it proper time, it will definitely give you proper returns, right? So it's like a cost benefit analysis. The investment, the time that you put in the subject, those returns you will get. If you're not putting much time, how do you expect good marks? So this can be made a very scoring subject by learning conceptually, understanding what you're doing. And in today's scenario, though, it's easier for you to score in this subject, because now your theory papers have got 30 marks of MCQs, which according to me is a very, very interesting area to score. So can it be a scoring subject? Yes, it can, provided you give it its due respect. In fact, even in our case, in our first batch only, we had got the highest in auditing. First batch, almost 13 years back, when we had taken, that time there was a student named Kedar, who is obviously a CA by now. He was a merit ranker and he had got 83 in auditing, which was the highest in India, and he has got a gold medal for that. So we were obviously very happy in the first batch getting such a high score. Later on, after again a few attempts, after a few exams more, we had got another student who had got 84. So we thought maybe 84 is again going to be a very high score. But again, that did not happen. Then finally we got 85. And when we got 85, her name is Khushbu, the student. That time we were excited, like, yes, maybe we have got the first rank again. So I asked Khushbu to check her, whether she's got the highest. But little sad we felt, because 86 was the highest that time. So it so happened that, sorry, she had got the second highest. Of course, it was an amazing score, but little sadness was there in our mind that we lost the first rank there. And then after again, maybe 2 or 3 exams later, we had a student, Rishikesh, who had got 86 marks. So we said, come on, we have done it this time. I'm sure we have got the highest now, 86. Rishikesh checked his marks, but again, sadly, 87 was the highest and he lost by just 1 mark. But my point is, even getting second highest in the country is good. So we had got first the highest marks, and twice we have got the second highest marks. So now my point is that this can be scoring. In 80 plus, we have got around 30-40 students who have scored 80 plus. 70 plus also we have got hundreds of students, and 60 plus I have lost track. So exemptions are a must when we learn. We should always learn with one thing in mind: I want to score good in this subject. Not that I just want to pass. If you think of passing, you will only pass. But if you think of scoring, at least you will get an exemption. If you think of 90, you will end up with 80 at least. Only thinking is not important. You have to also work hard for it. but still, end of the day, it is all about how much you aim, how much you work for it will determine where you will reach in your life. So only thing is that it can be made scoring provided you want to score in it. Okay, so that's about my point. Peculiar features of this subject, as I already told you, one peculiar feature, it kind of depends on my other subjects knowledge also. Not that 100% it depends on that, but yes, some at least 10 to 15%. Your accounts related concepts come here, your law related concepts come here, okay, tax related sometimes things will come here. So it is a very common thing. So this is a peculiar feature of the subject. Second thing is that yes, it expects a certain kind of language that you have to write in the exam. You cannot just write normal simple words in plain English and expect that you will get marks. The technical language here is extremely important. So the special features of this subject is the technical language which you need to understand. Okay, and we are going to focus on that technical language, of course. Without that, we will not be able to really get the subject properly. So you have to get used to that technical language. That is very important. And frankly, every subject has its own language. So why not auditing? And you are learning auditing for the first time, and you're going to do this for your whole life, because I told you, anyone can be an accountant also. I mean, even a BCom or MCom person can do accounting, but auditing in my country only a chartered accountant can do. That gives the importance to me. I am known as a CA for auditing because that is one thing where nobody else can touch, only I can do. Right? So that's the reason you are going to be learning properly the technical language. And once you get a hang of the language, which you will get in a few days, you know, not three, at least around 7 to 8 days are required to get a hang of the language. Once you get that, then no looking back, then you will start enjoying your auditing. Initially, any new subject requires time to grasp the kind of language, the kind of technicalities which come with it. So yes, that is one peculiar feature, and because of this also students lose marks because they do not understand the language, they do not reproduce it in the exam properly. So that is what you have to be careful about. Okay, remember, you are learning, this is like your foundation. Once you have a foundation, then you can make a strong building. So in this scenario, as an auditor, you have to make this foundation. Your intermediate is a very big step towards your foundation. Okay, your first and the most important step, because after that you will be doing articleship. In CA final, you will have the subject again. Of course, you'll be going deeper and deeper, but the base is going to be here. Okay, so that's about the subject. And the last thing, is it an interesting subject? What do you think? Remember, if I tell you a secret, are secrets more interesting or general stuff is more interesting? Simple question. If general talks we do is more interesting or some secret? Secrets, right? So this is our secret. Our secret, chartered accountant secret. How is auditing done? This is not which everyone will be knowing. This is not general knowledge. This is expert knowledge. This is knowledge which is only shared between we auditors. So that's the reason this makes it very interesting, because if you don't take interest, who's going to take interest? This is your bread and butter. This is your main subject. Of course, you have to take interest, and it is going to be extremely interesting if you are interested in frauds. When I say audit, yes, frauds come to our mind, scams come to our mind. Of course, all that is very interesting. But why that could not be detected is more interesting. How that could be detected is more interesting. Right? Why did auditors fail they could not detect is more interesting. Only knowing a scam is not enough. Knowing how it could be avoided, knowing how it could be detected is more interesting. And this interesting knowledge is our secret. Like everyone has trade secrets, auditing is our trade secret. So of course it is extremely interesting. Sometimes it may happen because of so much of theory and you have not seen it practically. Sometimes it's boring, but come on, that's okay. It can be managed, okay? Everything cannot be interesting, right? But 90% of the times you will enjoy it. So these are the general points of my auditing, and with this you might have definitely understood that some things which people feel that it is boring, sometimes feel that it's not scoring, it is only theoretical, all these kind of myths are, I hope, busted now, and you are sure about where we are heading now. Okay, so this is basically about my subject. Going further now, in your syllabus, what all is there? So now let's see your syllabus here. As you can see, we have total 14 chapters. Okay. Now you might be thinking, what has ma'am done? She's done like 1, 2, 7, 8, 14. Something is wrong. She's forgetting a number. She's forgotten her numbers. Well, that's not the case. The reason I've done the grouping like this is because of the weightage which has been given here. See, this is the weightage. Weightage of the chapters. Okay. So what do you see over here? When Institute was giving the weightage, Institute has given 20 to 25 marks for your chapter number 1, which will be starting today. Nature, objective and scope of audit. These are all the basics of audit, the basic introduction. Then comes my strategy, planning, how to plan the audit. Okay, that will be coming my chapter number 2. And then after that, chapter number 3 is audit documentation, which is here, which has a 5 to 15 marks weightage. Okay, but they have grouped strategy planning, your basic chapter, chapter number 1, and 7, 8 and other standards on auditing. These all chapters have been grouped together to give 20 to 25 marks. So when we learn also, okay, we will be learning chapter 1, 2 first, of course. Chapter 3 also we'll be learning. Then we might be going little into chapter number 7 and 8 because that is, a part of the basics. And standards on audit. Now, what are standards on auditing? Like how you have got accounting standards, we have got auditing standards. For you in intermediate, 27 standards are applicable. How many? 27. Not that there are 27 standards actually we have 46 standards, but for you all as intermediate students, only 27 are applicable. Only 27 according to Institute. Till last year, there were 36 standards applicable to you. But then afterwards, they reduced some standards. They removed from your syllabus. So today, 27 standards apply to you. Standards on auditing is the chapter number 14, which is there. So you will be thinking, how am I going to be learning the basics, right? Let me tell you, standards on auditing is a chapter which gets divided in 2 parts. Most of it gets covered in your basic chapters. Okay, the book 1 which we have 3 books, by the way. The first book is your 8 chapters, which includes many standards on audit. Some standards on audit are not there in your chapter, so they will be separately there in book number 2 for the chapter number 14. I mean, the other standards will be in that. Okay, so all this together is 20 to 25 marks. Then comes point number 3, I mean chapter number 3, which we already said, documentation evidence, which is 5 to 15 marks. In documentation evidence also we have to learn around 7, 8 standards. So you got it. It is going to happen through the syllabus. Through the chapters we are going to be learning. Then risk assessment and automated environment, computerized environment, how you do audit. This will be coming for 10 to 15 marks. Then we have chapter number 9, which my second book starts. My second book is the entire practical part of audit. Chapter 1 to 8, the first part, book 1, is all the theory part of audit, like all standards and what is there, how is there. But how we exactly do audit, that we come in the second book. Practical aspects like company audit, bank audit, how will you do, okay? Audit of movie theaters, how will you do? Audit of hospitals, hotels, how you will do. So that practical aspect comes in my book number 2. So definitely students enjoy book number 2 more. That is a fact. Okay. Then this audit of items in FS, you're going to be learning about how to check and vouch for your income, expenses, your assets and liabilities. All of it you learn in chapter number 9, which has got again a good weightage, a single chapter giving you 10 to 15 marks weightage. Okay. Then comes fraud related chapter. Of course, fraud is going to be a very interesting chapter, and company audit, which you have already learnt in your law. Okay. But of course, we do it in audit. We do it like properly. We don't think that you have learnt it in law, so just flip through it. No, we will do it properly. This is 15 to 20 marks of weightage, which is a very good weightage again. Audit report, 5 to 15 marks. Okay, there are 6 standards in audit report, 5 applicable for y'all. This, you can see 5 standards we have here, right? Audit documentation, around 7 to 8 standards we have here. Understand, not 7 to 8, I think a little more only. But still, these all standards, even these are a part of your weightage. Did you observe? So don't think standards on auditing only 14 chapter is there, 20 to 25 marks. No, you have it over the things. Then audit of banks and audit of different entities. I was telling you, hotels, hospitals, movie theaters, etc. Cooperative societies, LLP audit, etc. We have that 10 to 20 marks. So this is how your weightage will be going. Of course, today is day one, so you will not understand all this weightage and all. As and how we will study the chapters, I will be telling you. But 14 chapters to learn, 27 standards to learn, okay, and different types of audit, lots of frauds and all to learn, company audit to learn, lots of things to learn. That's my point, okay. So this is your syllabus, which is quite vast, quite good enough, but not manageable. It is very much manageable, okay. What am I here for, right? So we will manage it together very nicely. Then going to what is the institute expecting from us. So this is what we call as the skill assessment as per ICI. Means now institute expects certain skill sets from you. Now institute has kind of gone trying to approach auditing with a global, not only auditing, all subjects with a global approach. Means we are trying to see what kind of skill sets we should develop while studying. So in auditing, they have got comprehension and knowledge. Okay, comprehension is understanding, knowledge is your memorizing, recall of the concept. Recall means how you can remember the concepts, how you can remember the provisions, the definitions. So the type of questions which come here are state the things, right, or discuss the things. Then we have got explain, list the points, describe them. These kind of questions will be coming 30 to 55%. Somewhere these are going to be more of direct questions in the exam, because the next part is analysis and application. Now what I have observed over my experience is students definitely understand the first part. Like they can understand the concepts, they define it, they know the definitions, they know the provisions, they can list out the points. That's okay. But when it comes to application, they sometimes are not perfect in it. So application of your knowledge is where students lose marks. And you can see the weightage here. More than your comprehension and knowledge, your weightage here is 45 to 70%, which is quite a lot of things. So institute expects that you don't just know the concept. So knowledge is obviously there. You should understand it, of course. After understanding and getting knowledge, you should be able to analyze the cases and apply that knowledge to practical scenarios. So these questions are more of practical problems. Case studies will be coming here. Okay, so case studies normally come here where we have got concepts, provisions, principles, but applying them, analyzing them. So what kind of questions we have here? See the difference? Earlier one, it was state, discuss, describe, explain, list. But here the questions are going to be analyze, examine, advise, identify the mistakes, identify the scenario, and even advise them what is correct, what is wrong. So this is where actually your testing comes. And mind it, to get analysis application, knowledge and comprehension are necessary. That is my base. And analysis application is the second stage. 1, 2, second stage. Second stage you can go. It's like 2 steps. To reach the second step, step 1 has to be crossed. So that's how it goes. Okay, so you have to understand that as well as analysis application. So this is what institute expects of the students. Next part is my paper format. So as I told you, the best part of the paper is the first part, MCQs. Now 30 marks MCQs means at least passing should not be a problem, correct? Scoring may not be a problem depending on how conceptually clear you are. Now remember, these MCQs now come with basically 15 questions. 15 questions of 2 marks each. And now institute has started with this integrated case studies. Now this is where only a conceptually clear student can score, where he is able to link the different topics knowledge, because integrated means all of it is coming together. They will give you a case, a big case, and in that big case they will ask you something relating to documentation also, they might ask you something relating to standards also, they might ask you law related provision also, they might ask you tax related point also. So that is going to be integrated when all the subjects and all the things come together, all the topics come together. So that is going to be now the future. Remember, we have lots of competitive exams where integrated case studies are there. And Institute, by doing this, has done a very, very good thing. Here, students will learn how to link their chapters and concepts together. So that's what we have. Two integrated case studies means two big cases, and every case will have 5 questions each. Okay, so 5 questions into 2 marks each, like that we have got 10 marks per case study, 2 case studies, so total 20 marks there. 5 normal other MCQs which will be 2 marks each, so like that you have total 30 marks. Let me tell you, this integrated case studies from 2020 onwards they have started. Before this, the kind of what do you say, papers they had, okay, papers that they had used to be 20 questions of MCQs, 20 questions, 1 mark each, so 20 marks there, and then 5 more questions of 2 marks each, so that would be 25 questions having total 30 marks. This was the case, but with integrated case studies, Institute is very serious about it, and they've started linking it, and we have all the MCQs and everything we have in our book number 3. Okay, so book 3 is dedicated to your MCQs and integrated case studies. Okay, so this is your division A of the paper. If you're conceptually clear, trust me, you're getting 25 to 30 marks, full marks is very well possible. Okay, then comes my second part, division B, which is of 70 marks, obviously, right? Where the first question is compulsory and you have to answer any 4 out of 5. So you have a choice here. MCQs, you have no choice. So question number 1 is compulsory. The compulsory question, the best part, is your correct, incorrect. So correct, incorrect with reasoning, of course, is going to be there, which you're going to be having 7 questions to be attempted out of 8. 2 marks each. So 14 marks there, and this is compulsory. So correct, incorrect is going to be what? Again, very, very important. Right? And again, only a conceptually clear student can give the reasons properly, understand. But for me right now, I see this as a very, very big scoring area. Why is it scoring? You can understand. First, you had got MCQs, which are 30 marks. And second, you have got correct, incorrect, which are 14 marks. Total 44 marks is kind of objective paper. And you still call it not scoring? Come on, you must be joking, right? Definitely scoring. So these 44 marks, we should aim for full marks here. Then going further, we have got mixed questions. Now mixed questions, we have to answer 4 out of 5 questions. I call it mixed questions because they could be coming from any chapters. Okay, so we have got like 4 out of 5 questions you have to solve. So 56 marks we have here. Okay, 14 marks per set. And then you can have question number 2, A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D could be there, 3 marks, 3 marks, 4 marks question. Anyhow, it's possible. Okay, the combinations can be in any form. Just that total should be 14 marks. Okay, so you can get a 6 mark question, 4 mark question, 4 mark question. A, B, C. Possible. You can get 3 marks, 3 marks, 4 marks, 4 marks question. Possible. You can get 8 marks question also, right? And you can get 3 and 3. Any kind of combination is possible. This would be 4 out of 5. Here you have a choice. Like in correct, incorrect, one choice you have, and here you have got another choice. Okay, so you can just choose any of the questions and do them. So this is how your paper format is. So actual writing a lot is only 56 marks because 44 marks is like objective type. Okay, So definitely now you must have got the confidence that scoring can be possible here. Just study properly and do your concepts. That's the way it is. Now coming to how are we going to have our books, how our teaching style is going to be there. So the first thing I want to tell you is that we have got total 3 books. Okay, 3 books in which you have the first 2 books which is for your entire syllabus, and the third book is your MCQ book. Okay, so this is how it is. I'll be showing you the basic format of the chapter, like how exactly are we going to be covering the chapter. Okay, how it goes. I will show you the entire first chapter to understand and get a feel of how the chapters are going to be there. Entirely they are going to be colorful and interactive notes. Colorful notes, understandable. Okay, but what is interactive notes? Interactive notes, when I will show you the notes, I will explain to you how they are going to be interactive. Okay, we in our notes have covered the entire module, RTP, MTP, suggested answers of the institute, basically everything. So you don't really need to go beyond this. If you want, we have good textbooks. I would be giving you names also, you can refer to them. Otherwise, institute base and our notes is enough. Our notes also have taken the base of the institute end of the day. So even if you do this properly, look no beyond this. You are assured you will be covering everything. But do this properly, fully, 100%. Okay. 3 books, as I told you. First book is having 8 chapters. Second book is having 6 chapters, and my third book is my MCQ book, including your integrated cases also, case studies. Okay, so this is how your 3 books are going to be. Now I don't believe in giving like too many books, like giving you 4, 5, 5, 6, 6 books, different types. A reason being, a student gets confused exactly what is to be studied, when to study, what to study. Okay, so what I have done is, in the book itself I have given scope that we can make summary. We will have an inbuilt scanner means I'll be giving you the exam questions which have come, what kind of questions come, that is also there. So rather than giving you different books, I have done chapter wise for you. So when I will do one chapter, in that entire chapter we will be doing everything relating to it, like the concepts first, then we'll have our MCQs, some of them there. We'll be having extra MCQs in the MCQ book also. We'll be having correct, incorrect also. We'll be having the exam questions which have come with the weightage, marks, everything. So you will get to have a bird's eye view of the entire chapter in one place, rather than going through different books again and again. Summary also, now many times students want summary, they want a short thing for the notes. So how will we do that summary? That also I'll explain to you when I show you the chapter. Okay, so this is what the features of the notes are, so that you can study in the least possible time and get the best output possible. Okay, then obviously our teaching style is going to be 100% full on conceptual. Okay, so conceptual understanding, and we are going to have your entire doubts clarified. Now you will be thinking, Are, this is recorded batch, this is how you're going to have the doubts clarified. Simple. Why? Today technology is so advanced. What we need, just send a mail, send a WhatsApp, you can just call. Why we need, and if you're in Pune, you can come to office, you can sit and across, you can, solve your queries. So every single doubt of yours will be cleared. What happens is, when you have been teaching for so many years, normally as a teacher we understand where students get doubts. See, they're going to be majority, 80% of the doubts are common for the students. So we will be covering those doubts as in how I'm teaching. Okay, yeah, here this doubt may come to your mind. So most of the doubts will be cleared there. 80% will be cleared, that I can be sure of. But 20% is all you're thinking now. Imagination has no end. So for that you can always call, no problem. WhatsApp, call, mail, whatever you want. Get your doubts clear. Next is one thing which I have seen now in theory, okay, especially in auditing, there's a lot of memorizing going on. Okay, memorizing, ratta maro as we call it. Okay, just keep on repeating the things, keep on saying it, keep on saying it till the time you learn it. Okay, so see what happens is, you do need mnemonics. Not that I don't use mnemonics. Mnemonics means the memory techniques as you call them. I use mnemonics, but I use them where I need to use them. I don't use them for each and everything, because many things are learnt with logic, many things are learnt with charts, some things will be learnt with tables, some things will learnt with mind mapping techniques. There will be different techniques to learn the things. So you can't ratta maru each and everything. You have to learn where what needs to be applied. Okay, so you can never have one single technique to learn any subject. So we'll be using the entire these techniques together. Okay, so some charts, some tables, some mnemonics, memory techniques have to be there, but in some place, not everywhere. Okay, and mind mapping also will be there. Mind mapping is a very interesting technique of learning, which you will come to know as and how we go further in the class. Next I have is again practical insight. A most important thing for me in auditing to make it interesting is using real life actual examples. So I will be sharing a lot of examples with you, especially of articleship, because articleship is the place where you're going to face everything. Once you become a chartered accountant, then the whole world is open. You can see a lot of things. You'll be seeing, learning a lot of points. But in articleship, what kind of experience you need, what kind of things you observe, what examples we have seen, or what examples the big four have, or actual reports of companies. We'll be seeing all the big companies, listed companies you can imagine, right from Reliance to Data, to like all of them. We'll be seeing each and every report and we'll be understanding that. Okay, so practical insight is going to be one important thing which we are going to be covering. So you will not feel the theory touch a lot. You will be seeing how practically things are also, and that has to be done because you have not done your articleship. So for you, you have to see this, to feel it, you have to see it. We'll be discussing about scams, the practical insight again. What kind of scams you have heard of, right? Whether be it Satyam, whether be it Enron, whether be it CWG scam we have got our 2G scam of the government, irrigation scam, we have got like Colgate scam, you name it. We will be having lots of practical and some scams which you have never even heard of. You will hear it for the first time in audit. All the scams which I told you were the ones you have already heard. You might be knowing about it. So we'll be discussing all those things here. Okay, so that will give you that practical insight and examples, which will make it more interesting. Okay, so that's how we are going to be going about the teaching. Okay, and lastly, now I follow the CAT technique for teaching audit. CAT technique. What is this CAT technique? So the first C stands for 4 C's. 4 C's. What are these 4 C's? What we do is your entire syllabus has been divided into chapters. Okay. The chapters which have been divided is already done by the institute. They have already divided it. But the order in which we learn the chapters is where you will be understanding the difference. You can't just simply take chapter 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. Now you cannot. Because if you want to understand it the best way, you have to go in a certain sequence. So first we have divided into chapters. Then every chapter I have divided into clusters. Clusters of, the chapter. Like for example, the first chapter I have divided into 5 clusters. So we learn cluster wise. Okay. So one cluster is over, relating to all the cluster. Then we will be seeing what all things are covered in that cluster. And why have I clubbed all that cluster together? So that you can learn it in the best way. Least time, best way. So that's what clusters are for. So we'll be dividing it. Every cluster will be covering a few topics which are there. Okay, those topics which are interlinked with each other. So we'll be covering that. Okay, so that is the coverage of that cluster. And obviously coming to the bottommost part, that is going to be my concepts. What are we interested in? Eventually the concepts. But this is what I call like the top down approach. Understand the chapter, first the syllabus actually. From syllabus comes the chapters, from chapters comes the clusters. In every cluster there could be 4 to 5 things which are covered, topics which are covered. Some cluster might have just 2 or 3 things covered, but they are all linked with each other, or there would be some kind of connection with which you can learn it faster. And then eventually every covered topic will have small concepts. Why small concepts have to dig into? Because MCQs come, because correct incorrect comes. Our institute just puts one sentence, such a huge module, they pick up one sentence and write it in the exam and write explain. Are from where that sentence has come, student will not understand only from where it has come unless you know the concept properly. So our focus and our emphasis is going to be on the concepts, but divided it like this. So this will be your first step of CAT. Second step is going to be, after understanding the concept, you have to apply the concept, right? Only understanding concept is not enough. For applying the concept, what I have done is, I have got three things for you. Okay, three things which are exam oriented only. MCQs, which includes, even like I said, integrated MCQs. Okay, both of them included, normal as well as integrated. Then we have correct, incorrect, that is also going to be there. Lots and lots of them. And lastly, practical problems. So how do we go about it? Your MCQs, basic MCQs, some of them will be there in your books 1 and 2. Okay, when a chapter is over, what kind of MCQs come? Basic will be there. Correct, incorrect we'll be having. Okay, around 200 to 300 around 300 correct, incorrect questions we have, which are going to be there. MCQs we are going to solve around, we are going to have around 1000 odd MCQs. 900 odd, you can say, not exactly 1000. So those MCQs, some will be class oriented, some are going to be homework oriented, but that's what are your MCQs. Imagine almost 900 MCQs, about 200 to 300 correct, incorrect, and practical problems is one thing which I believe gives you the edge over all other students. When I give you practical case studies and you have to give whether it is right, wrong, apply all the concepts. So practical problems also we have a lot of them. Okay, would be somewhere around 400 or a little bit more practical problems which will be there every chapter. So now you will come to know that your chapter will be divided into 5 parts. Okay, what 5 parts? The first one is your chapter itself, which is divided into clusters, into coverage, into concepts. Second part is going to be obviously MCQs. Okay, so this is going to be your first part. This is going to be your second part. This is going to be correct, incorrect, third part. Fourth part is going to be your practical problems, okay, of that chapter. And fifth part, which is also my T point of CAT, is your test writing. Test does not mean only exams. I don't mean only exams. I mean any kind of writing practice. So at least one answer a day we have to do practice of writing. So whatever concept you have learnt for today, we'll see what kind of exam question has come from that, and that we will be having to write. So only one answer a day. I don't give you more than one answer a day because I know you will not do it. Okay. So one answer a day only is enough. Hardly 5 minutes it will take, but you will see yourself improving. You know, one big problem of auditing is student knows everything, understands everything, can apply also, but when it comes to writing he fails. He can't express properly, he can't explain properly, he can't use a technical language properly, and that's why that practice we will be doing. So this will be the 3 steps of our technique of learning this lovely, interesting, amazing, important subject of auditing. So I hope you understood how we'll be going about the learning. Okay, so this is going to be the 5th part of my chapter, which is actually, I call it as a exam corner. Exam corner means whatever has already come in your exams, what is come in your mock test papers or RTP or whatever, you know, important from your exam angle. We will be doing writing practice, not for all the questions, of course, not for all of them, but the important ones, which we will be seeing. So this is how we are going to go about your entire syllabus. I hope you have understood everything. Okay, so this will be our technique, paper format, everything that we have done is important. Okay, so this was important for your understanding of how the syllabus is, what is in the syllabus, how we'll be covering it, what is our teaching style, how many books we have, etc, etc. All of it is done now. Okay, so now I'm going to take you to chapter number 1 to give you an actual feel of how the notes will be, and then we will obviously start studying the chapter immediately. So now this is my chapter number 1. Okay, it's one of the lengthy chapters that you have, nature, objective and scope of audit. So we have this chapter. This is how we exactly go about it. Okay, first you will see how the chapter is. Okay, we have everything divided into concepts. Okay, clusters I will be telling you in class ki what are the clusters. Okay, so we have all the concepts which we cover here, fully colorful notes. Okay, as you can see them, I've taken a lot of efforts to make these notes, and I'm very sure you'll enjoy learning from them. You are going to love learning from them, trust me on this. Okay, then this is how it goes. Okay, now I'll take you directly down, see how the standards also have been covered in the appropriate places. Now this is your first standard. Okay, essay 200 which we start. So every standard, then we divide into concepts, and you know what, they pick up any small thing and ask you. Okay, so audit risk, they can ask you 4-mark question. That is how it goes. So we have like all of it. What I want to show you now is the second part. This is your chapter 1. See, it's a big chapter, I told you. Still not over. So these will be a few MCQs of that chapter. Okay, these are your institute module only MCQs, nothing extra here. The extra ones I've put is in your book number 3. Okay, just practice MCQs here. Then we have correct, incorrect. Okay, so first part was your chapter, second part was a few MCQs, third part is correct, incorrect. As you can see, I've given you the sources of the questions also, like exam questions, RTP questions, mock test paper questions, all of them, the sources have been given. Some are module questions, some are my own questions, whatever. So all of them given. After that, you can see we have practical problems. Even the practical problems I have divided concept wise. So you know, when you learn a concept, you see the practical problems associated with it, you will understand it better. So here you have your basic concepts related, then you have your standards related questions, right? You can see with all answers, all of them with answers. So you know exactly with points and how to be writing. That too, as and how we learn, I'll explain to you how it's to be written. Now, this is my part number 5. Okay, after practical problems, I take you to the 5th part, that is the exam corner. So exam corner has got these questions which are there, and all the questions, some of them with answers, some of them are direct questions. So I've just given you hint from where you can take the answer rather than repeating and making a book very bulky, like all question answer. Why to give you a separate question bank also? Everything is here. Okay, so I don't believe I told you in giving all different questions. Rather, everything of this chapter will be here. Once you do this, you're done with the chapter fully. Not that I have to do this book, I have to do that book again. Not required. Okay. Okay, one more thing. Well, let's see. So this is how your questions go with your RTP questions, mock test paper questions, all of them we have here. Okay. As I told you, some with answer, some without answer. Depends. Okay, so this is how exactly we'll be going about the syllabus, and this is how a typical chapter would be looking like. This is a lengthy chapter. Okay, normally I keep space in between, okay, some concepts and all, where you can write down your small notes. I told you it's going to be an inbuilt summary. How inbuilt? Because here itself you will see that the notes have been made only in an interactive style. We will be learning from the notes, some from PPT, some from the notes, and we will be marking all the key points here. Plus we will be writing some things in your notebook, and you will see, like, see, I give you some space here to write. Okay, so you can write the small points here also. So you can make that summary here itself. You will use highlighters, you will use your different colors of pens you can have, which you can use in your notebook. Plus highlighters you will be using. Small sticky notes you will be having here, so you can, put all the concepts. And as and how we will be learning, you will see how things will be used. Okay, so the point is understanding each and everything properly, analyzing it, and most important, how to retain it and reproduce it. Reproducing in the exam is the most important. Okay, and many times it happens, students know the answer but they don't know like what is the institute asking. So when the question comes, they are giving something else only, or they're not able to comprehend the question and give the answers. So that comes with practice. That's why we have that exam corner. So we'll be learning it in this manner. I hope all the things are clear. Okay, so finally now we will be starting with our chapter. Okay, the chapter number 1.